All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu Cree, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation and Treaty 3 territory. My name is Neil Harden. I'm chairing today's panel. With me are Jerry Amal and Bill Maretsky. The assessor today is Arif Dost Mohammed, and the administrative personnel is Tristan Bredden. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we'll limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking in the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by council and is independent of it in the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by the questions the applicant may have, then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the other evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 6 and 7 on our docket today. Mr. Bredden, please affirm the assessor's and applicant's testimony.
Certainly. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Arif Das Mohammed.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Marcelo Navarro.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much.
All right. So the first property that we're hearing today is 2233 McGillivray Boulevard. So, Mr. Das Mohammed, you can proceed.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Board revision file number 24-1933. Roll number is 10006448400. Address is 2233 McGillivray Boulevard. Roll year is 2025. Reference date is April 1st, 2023. Assessed value is $5,057,000. Parcel use is industrial warehouse. There's one building there, 3 premises, 1 story. Effective year built and actual year built are both 1979. Wall heights are 24 feet. It's zoned light to general manufacturing. Land area is 187,902 square feet. Plan area is 22,120 square feet. Gross floor area and leasable area are both 29,620 square feet. Land to plan area is 8.49 to 1. On the following page, you will see the sales history of the subject. So the subject was first sold April 2nd, 2012. That's 11 years prior to the reference date for $3 million. And that was also the sworn value given on the land transfer document. And then in December 10th, 2014, the subject sold again for $3.5 million. And again, the sworn value on the land transfer was $3.5 million. If you turn to my page 12, you could just let me know when you're there.
Okay.
I'm good, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay, so there's the a map of the subject property. It's located in the southwest quadrant of the city. Below is a close-up of that map. On the following page is the parcel boundaries. So the subject fronts onto McGillivray Boulevard. The following page is a aerial view of the subject property. So you'll note that there is a lot of surplus land on there. Page 15 is just a reverse shot of the overhead view. Page 16, another close-up of the building, and then page 17, a close-up, and then at the bottom is some street views from Google Maps. Again, on page 18, some street views of the property. Page 19, close-up of the overhead doors on the west side of the property. And then at the bottom of page 19 there's the building section. So it was built in 1979. It has 22,000 square feet approximately and a 7,500 square foot mezzanine for a total gross area of 29,620 feet. On the following page is the income and expense mailer that was submitted to the city for 2022. You'll note that it is indicating that it is partially owner occupied. And then there is some rental income on it on page 21. You'll see there is a gross net of $13 per square foot on there for one of the units for 8,100 square feet. That works, like I said, that works out to about $13 per square foot gross. On average, we see that the additional rent is between $3 and $4 in the city. So if you were to minus, say, $4, you're looking at approximate net rent of $9 per square foot. That's just my rough estimate. And then on the following page, I also included the submission for 2021. You'll note the rental income there is significantly higher at $112,500. On the following page is the tenant roll again. So two gross nets there. Northwest Company looks like they're paying $8.40 gross. And again, the Can White Sands Corp is paying $13 gross. On the following page, I found a couple of articles. Now, my only point of including these articles was to indicate that the subject had declared this building vacant. I take it the owners were not renting it out for some reason, and they were fined $35,000. It was declared vacant by the city's fire prevention officers. On the following page, 25, they acknowledge there that the building had been mostly used for storage between 2015 and 2019. I've underlined that section. And then at the bottom there, you'll note that the building has office space and a portion dedicated to warehouse and storage. On the following page, I also wanted to point out that this building and the next building that's up on the docket are both, the city has put a lien on these buildings. This is part of 2 of 5 buildings that have liens on them. And that was my only point about that building, or including this article, just so that the board is aware. On page 30 is the land transfer document from the most recent sale. I'll note there on section 6 that the fair market value of the property at December 5th, 2014, they're indicating that the fair market value is $3.5 million there. So going back to my page 3, I have some rental comparables there. So all comparables, like the subject, are industrial warehouse properties, and they're located in the immediate industrial market region as the subject. All leases are current in relation to the reference date. Effective year built ranges from 1974 to 2006. Average wall heights range from 12 feet to 23 feet. Leasable areas range from approximately 5,500 square foot to 14,000 square feet in order to compare the different leasable areas in the building. Net rents range from $9.60 per square foot to $17.67 per square foot. On page 4, I have some land comparables as we have some surplus land on this building or on this property, sorry. So we're utilizing a net rent of $10.13 per square foot. The comparables come in between $9.13 to $13.90. We've indicated that there's about 60,700 square feet of excess land, and the comparables range from 56,000 square feet to 64,000 square feet. On the following page, there is some detached structures, which we are adding to income at a replacement cost, new less depreciation for 60,000. So it's just some underground storage tanks. There's 3 of them. So at cost, they're coming in at $20,000 per tank, so $60,000 total. On the following page is our workup. So we're utilizing a overall, excuse me, overall net rental rate of $10.65 per square foot, 4.5% market vacancy, 3% for non-recoverable expenses, and $4 per square foot for vacancy shortfall. This works out to an NOI of $286,993. We're capitalizing at a rate of 6.55%. If you add that to the land cost, or sorry, the additional land value and the building outbuildings, we get a rounded capitalized and assessed value of $5,057,000. In the appendix, I have some outside industry reports. They all indicate that the Winnipeg market has remained robust and in demand for the last number of years over a full range of industrial real estate property types. Vacancy has been low and stable. Rental rates have increased and cap rates have compressed, and they have tended lower. So for the reasons stated above, the sale in 2014 and the potential rent that the subject property is capable of generating, I believe that the assessed value of $5,057,000 to be fair and equitable, and I respectfully ask that the board confirm this value. And I'm open to questions. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
questions, Mr. Navarro.
Yes, I just have a couple of questions. Regarding the lease information that you have on page 21, you'll note, will you agree that that is just a short-term 2-month lease?
I do have them on, I think it was 4 months maybe, because they are in the 2021 mailer also.
Okay, but this is the 2022 mailer, correct? The one
Right, and I do have the 2021 on page 23, but it is a short-term lease.
Okay. You'll also note that the property has been vacant for some time. You would agree with that?
Yes, and the article that I included indicates that also.
Okay. Other than that, Mr. Chair, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Amell, questions?
No questions, thanks.
Mr. Moretsky, questions?
How did you arrive at the amount of surplus land? So you have it at 60,733. So how did you get to that number and say, okay, this is
So it would have been done.
surplus?
It would have been done on the land to plan area. Usually, if there's anything over 1.4, sorry, 1 over 1 to 1.4 to 1, then it's excess on a building like this. So that's where somebody would have gone through, looked at the site plans and come up with that value.
Okay,
I didn't come up with that value myself, though.
wanted to know how you arrive at
Yeah,
that.
it's anything that's over 4 to 1, then
Makes sense. Yeah, you got to cut it off somewhere.
Yeah.
So you did state, okay, I'm going to page 6 here, and this is just kind of a question about the process here of you come up with your workups. You did state that the overall rent is $10.65. I'm just wondering why on these sheets you do not put that number on there somewhere.
Because there is 3 premises in the building, and they're able to rent those out separately. We don't include them as a total. We've separated them because they can be rented out separately.
Yeah, but you gave us the information
Yes,
about the
yeah,
overall rent, so why don't you put it on there?
this is just the way our workups are done, but I do state in every one of my briefs what the overall is that we're using. I could print it out next time.
Yeah, I mean, I've asked that question a few times already. I'm just,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
in
maybe,
past, yeah, I just wonder why it's not there. That's why, because
I'll-
it seems like it's helpful information. Because I think everybody calculates it themselves, right? So why not put it on there?
I'll
That's
bring
my
it up with
suggestion.
I'll bring
Yeah.
it up with the department.
Okay. So the cap rate, I don't think you spoke too much about that. So you're going as an industrial, correct?
Yeah, and basically, it's approximately halfway through our cap rate study. This cap rate that we utilized, 6.55, was model generated, so it would have been based on the sales in the area and the income that properties in that area bring in. Sorry.
Well, this property is
This, yeah, so
40 something years old to the reference date. You considered that when you came up with the cap rate?
Well, the cap rate is model generated. So in the area, if we see buildings that are that old and going for that price, and if they're generating the similar type of income, then that's what the model would generate. It's done over by regression analysis.
Okay, because it seems to fit kind of in the middle of your range there on that page 8 sheet.
Yeah.
You agree with that?
We do find properties in the southwest to be sold at higher prices than we feel that the southwest area of the city is more desirable.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, with respect to your rental rates, I guess roughly $10.50 per unit, roughly. Um, uh, but when you looked at the mailers, you were saying the rates they're achieving and there are $9 or less. I mean, I just realize it's the back of the envelope sort of a calculation, but um, wouldn't that suggest that the $10.50 might be a bit on the high side?
We use a market rent when we do our models. So what we put there as $10.65 per square foot is a model generated rent. So that's what properties of this type are bringing in that neighborhood. And you'll note that the Costco is right beside these 2 properties. It is a very bustling area. Uh, I think it's a desirable area, and I think rents are achievable.
All right. Thank you very much. So Mr. Navarro, you can begin your presentation.
Okay, thank you. This is 2233 McGilvery Boulevard. And I'll ask you to turn to pages 6 and 7. See the pictures of the property. The outside pictures that we have there don't necessarily capture the condition of the property. So there are some pictures in the appendix that I think better address the condition of the building. On page 8, you can see a short description of the property. I won't get into that. We've used the income approach on page 12. And we have a rentable area of 29,620 square feet. We've used a market comparison approach. We haven't relied on any of the leases or any past leases. We have treated this as one premise though, because frankly, it's just outfitted like a single premise. So I understand that there have been some leases in the past of certain spaces in the property that, in our opinion, doesn't necessarily mean that that is cause for separation of, the building into different premises. It's essentially built as a one occupant building. It's just that in the past, I think the owners rented it out or rented certain spaces in it. So the comparisons that we took were of larger properties, similar in size to the subject and in the same area. So you can see that they range in size and in terms of their overall sizes, they're somewhat comparable. We have at least, for example, 1249 Clarence is 31,000 square feet. 1249 is 21. 1460 is 21. Again, we have another one on Scurfield, 21,000, and one on Waverly, that's 32,000. So we think we have a broad representation of the market for, this isn't a large building, because certainly I think what we would consider a large building would probably be in excess of 100,000 square feet. This is nowhere near that. This is where I think most of the buildings that are industrial in nature in Winnipeg kind of sit in between that 20 and say 50,000 square foot range. So we've assigned a rent of $7.95 to it. In terms of the vacancy, this really is the crux of the issue. So we've assigned a vacancy of 25% on it. You can see that the property has largely been vacant over the past few years, and that's going back 5 years. So what we view as chronic vacancy starts at about 3 years. This has gone beyond that. So in our opinion, there should be some acknowledgement of vacancy above the regular market vacancy. Whether it's 25, that's not up to me to decide, but there should be some acknowledgement of vacancy in excess of the standard market vacancy. In terms of the shortfall, we haven't acknowledged any other additional. We're going with the standard $4 per square foot shortfall and non-recovered expenses of 3%. We have applied a capitalization rate of 7.25 to this property, and I don't necessarily disagree with the assessor's cap rate. I think that's probably where we would have started, around there, 650 or so. Were this a ongoing functioning building that's being leased out and continuously used and, properly maintained and repaired and, not vacant. And, what I'll say about that is also that the vacancy in itself in excess of those years, the terminology that most people use for this is that effectively it's been boarded. The building isn't supposed to be used based on what the assessor pointed out in his brief. So that in itself creates some risk because you're not having that continual use and addressing of issues with the building, and that in itself creates issues. So I would say that this building is probably degrading at a faster rate than it would typically. So we've assigned a slightly higher cap rate of 7.25 to it. And we do recognize that there was a sale in the past. And I think were this building to have continued consistent use where it's leased and it's properly maintained, the value of it probably would have kept going up. But certain things kind of, there was a fork at the road at some point and it went in a different direction. And I think that's what we're trying to address in this valuation. So we have a final end value of 2,629,000 rounded. And if you turn to the appendix, the first set of pages are just the comparisons that we've used. You can look at those at your discretion. On page 25, we'll start with some of the internal pictures of the property. So those are on page 25, 26, 27, and 28. And then beyond that, we also included the income and expense information that was supplied by the owner to show that they were at least compliant. And I'm open for questions.
Any questions, Mr. Das Mohammed?
Yes, thank you. Just a few questions. Mr. Navarro, when the current owner bought the building, was it leased out?
I believe there were leases, but I don't have that, so I can't,
So when
I'm not
did they-
absolutely sure.
Okay, so, but they did use it for storage or for themselves?
I believe that's the case as well, too. Yes.
Okay. And then in your submissions at the end, you have some income and expense mailers that you've submitted.
Yeah.
So you would agree from 2020 to the reference date, current reference date, that the owner themselves have been indicating that there's 2 to 3 premises on there?
Sure. And you can see that most of the space, though, is vacant. But yes, I would agree that there have been some rentals.
Prior to, sorry, yeah.
However, what I will say is that there's sometimes a slight difference between a fixed premise that you would find in a multi-tenanted building and, say, potential space that you could lease out in a single occupant building. And some people would say that they're maybe the same thing, but I think there is a slight difference. So I don't know if we're going to agree on whether this is a multi-premise property. I don't believe it is. I think it's built as a single premise occupant building. And there's just been situations in the past where certain spaces in the building has been leased out.
Do you know why he would have separated it then? I take it there must have been tenants at one time, or?
Yeah, I take it at some point there may have, and I didn't really look beyond the 5 years that I.
Sure, okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. And then on your page 12, your lease comparables, you indicated that your best comparables would be all except for maybe 6 and 7. You didn't go over those ones, but they are larger than the subject property.
Sure.
Much
Yeah.
larger.
Yeah.
So if you were to just consider the 6 without using those 2, you would get a higher net rent per square foot. I take it around $8.50.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that would be completely reasonable. If you were looking at it from my perspective, sure, you could take those out and from the sample and get a higher rent. So yes.
And then yeah, other than that, I have no other questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Maretsky, questions?
So in your income evaluation, you come up with an amount of 1.9 or 1,954,358. And you also adjusted to 675. So you're agreeing with what the city has added to that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. review.
Was that all your questions, Mr.
No,
Ratsma?
no, it's not. No, I'm just,
Okay.
okay, so you got your income valuation, 1.1 million, and then the indicated market value, 2,629,358. Okay, okay. I got it. Okay, yeah, thanks.
Okay, Mr. Mel.
No, my question's been asked, thank you.
Okay. Is the owner actively marketing this place?
I don't think they can, Mr. Mr. Chair. As the assessor alluded to, I believe that there is a lien on this property at this point. And the building is, from what I understand, it's effectively boarded. So I don't think there's any activities going on, and I don't think that will be fixed anytime soon, at least not until the new year, when there is a court case that has to determine what the end result of the property will be and who gains ownership of it. That's not for me to address, though.
Okay.
I'm simply looking at it from the value perspective. So
But okay, it would be adding significant uncertainty
yeah,
to the property then. Okay, I have no more questions then. Summation, Mr. Das Muhammad,
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Mr. Navarro.
no, thank you, sir.
Okay, let's move next door then, literally. Let me just open the files to 1935. Oh, sorry, 1936, I guess it is. Oh no, hold it, wrong one. 2245 McGilvery. So on 2245 McGilvery, Mr. Das Muhammad.
Thank you very much. Board of Revision file number 24-1936, roll number 100064483000. Address is 2245 McGilvery Boulevard. Roll area is 2025. Reference date is April 1st, 2023. Parcel use is industrial warehouse. There's 3 buildings, 4 premises, 1 story. Actual year built and effective years built ranges between 1974 and 1976. Wall heights range between 9 feet and 16 feet. It's zoned manufacturing light general. Land area is 121,739 square feet. Plan area is 9,757 square feet. Gross floor area and leasable area are both 11,887 square feet. Land to plan area is 12.48 to 1. If you turn to my page 11, again, there's the map of the subject property. It's located in the southwest quadrant of the city. At the bottom of page 11 is a close-up of that map. On page 12 is the subject parcel boundaries. Page 13 is the overhead view of the subject property. And then page 14 is another overhead view, just showing the property in relation to the Costco building that I mentioned earlier. And you'll note the neighboring property there was the previous property that we just heard. On the following page is a couple more overhead views. Page 16, just another close-up overhead. And then on page 17, a couple of street views from Google Maps. Page 18 is the building summary. So there's 3 buildings built between 1974. There's only the 3rd building there at the bottom, built in 1976, with a square foot of 2,160 square feet and a 16-foot wall height. And then on the following page, I just have those same articles that we discussed previously on the previous property. So going to my page 3, there are my lease comparables. So like the subject, all comparables are industrial warehouse properties. They're located in the immediate industrial market region, such as the subject. All leases are current in relation to the reference date. Effective year built ranges from 1957 to 1989. Wall heights average between 12 feet and 14 feet. Leasable areas range from approximately 1,200 square feet to 5,500 square feet. Net rents range from $11.75 per square foot to $17.67 per square foot. On the following page is my land comparables for the surplus land that the property has. And I believe the applicant is in agreement with our calculation. So we are assessing the excess land at $10.49 per square foot for a total of $296,136. On the following page is our workup. So we're utilizing an overall net rental rate of $10.18, 4.5% market vacancy, 3% for non-recoverable expenses, $4 per square foot for vacancy shortfall. This works out to an NOI of $109,937. We're capitalizing at a rate of $7.45%. This gives us a rounded assessed value of $1,772,000. Again, in the appendix, I have the outside reports indicating that the industrial market is remained robust with full demand across the range of industrial properties. It's showing that the vacancy has been low and stable, rental rates have increased, cap rates have compressed and tended lower. Therefore, for the reasons stated above, I believe that the assessed value of $1,772,000 to be fair and equitable, and I respectfully ask that the board confirm this value. And I'm open to questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Navarro, questions? You're muted.
Okay, this was all model generated, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think any of this really differs from the previous property. You will also know that this property has been vacant for some time, correct?
Yes.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Amel,
No questions, thanks.
Mr. Moretsky,
You didn't attach any income and expense mailers on this property. Why is that?
There was none. There was no rentals on it, so I did not include it.
Okay, do they normally not have to send one in anyways?
They do.
You just chose not to put it in there.
Sorry?
You just chose not to put it in this property.
Correct, yes. I believe the applicant's evidence does have those in there.
Okay. Normally you would though, wouldn't you?
No, not usually if it's owner occupied. No vacant, or if it's vacant.
Okay, I think I've seen differently, but we'll agree to disagree on that. Page 4. So surplus land assessed at 296,136 is 28,231 square feet surplus. So you had mentioned that the cutoff was about 4 to 1.
Yeah.
Land to plan ratio, and so if I subtract that amount from the land area, I got about 93,000, which is about 8 to 9 to 1.
It's usually 4 to 1. It depends on who looks at it and what they think the site area is, and what they believe that the surplus is or not.
Okay,
So
no,
I haven't. I'm not the assessor who said this is what the surplus land is. I'm just indicating what we're assessing it at.
Okay, but you don't really know what the formula is then, is that what you're saying?
I don't have the notes
Just
on this.
totally discretionary by the assessor where that cutoff is?
Yes, depending on the property.
Depending on the property. As in what? Depending on what with the property?
Well, depending on who looks at the property, who's visited the property, who thinks there's excess, and what is the excess portion. I haven't visited this property. I am letting you know what the excess land has been on the property for the last number of assessments.
Okay, but you can't tell me the
No,
formula that is
I don't know
used.
what the formula was or who worked it out.
All right. Okay, I have no further questions. Oh,
Okay.
just a sec. Sorry, Mr. Chair. Guess your cap rate is 7.45 on this one.
Yes,
And so that's about, this building is about the same age as the last property we looked at, where you had a 6.55. Just wondering
yes,
why there's,
it's a smaller building, it's narrower, and it's a model generated cap rate.
okay, so the size of the building.
You'll note that the applicant has a lower cap rate than what we're utilizing.
I'm not really concerned with that. I just want to know how you got it.
It's model generated.
Thank you.
Okay, and I have no questions. So, Mr. Navarro, you can begin your presentation.
Okay, it's 2245 McGillivray Boulevard. On the first page, you can see the picture of it. This was the former headquarters of Caspian Construction. You can see some more pictures of the general locations on pages. Mr. Chair, if you just give me a second or a minute, I'm just going to number them. I noticed that I didn't number these pages. I believe you follow them using the PDF numbering, so it's not really that big of a deal, but I will need to number these pages so I know exactly where I am. Just about done. Okay. Let's start again. Page page 2 should be the assessment summary page that you all see. And that shows the picture of the former Caspian Construction headquarters. Page 3 is the intended use of the report. I'll just ask you to turn to pages 6 and 7. Those are the general area overhead views of the property. And on page 11, you can find the income approach. So again, I went through the same exercise of looking for comparables that are the same size in the general area. So that would be the southwest quadrant of the city. And found that we have 6 comparable properties with leases. Some of the leases are older. In terms of the rental rate that I used I believe a $10 rent on this property. I used a vacancy of 25%, and that goes again to the issue of this same issue as the previous property. The property has been boarded vacant for some time now, so we are acknowledging that there should be vacancy above and beyond the regular market vacancy. In terms of shortfall, $4 per square foot, non-recoverable expenses and other 3%, giving us a net operating income. This is on page 16. You're following along. And the net operating income is $74,591. We've applied a 7.25 cap rate to this property, giving us an income value of $1,028,840. acknowledged additional land of 296,000 is essentially agreement with the assessor's value. Just from the perspective of having done this in the past as an assessor, but on the assessor's page 13, I would take a stab at this and say that the way that they probably worked this out is that they took that rectangular piece right above the building that's wider and just squared that off and probably valued that section. I can't see how it would have been done any differently, because that's exactly how I would have done it. I simply would have measured that section out using one of the available GIS measuring tools that we have at our hand these days. So I'm not in disagreement. I said 296,000, and that gave me an end value of 1,324,840, or 1,325,000 rounded. Following that, in the appendix is simply the income and expenses that I reviewed for the various years that I looked at, specifically for the vacancy issue. So I'm open for questions.
Okay, questions, Mr. Das Mohammed?
Yes, just a couple, thank you. Mr. Navarro, you mentioned this was the headquarters for Caspian Construction.
Yes.
Okay, and do they still own it? I believe they're the owners still.
I don't think that's been determined at this point.
Okay, but
yeah.
It isn't Logistics Holdings Inc. Is that Caspian?
I don't know what the numbered company name is,
Okay.
but it's my understanding
Okay.
that this is their headquarters. Yeah.
Okay, so they still have care and control of the building.
I think that's undetermined.
Okay. Is it actively marketed?
I drove past it several times. I didn't see any signage there, but that may be because of, well, not maybe, it is because of the status currently on it.
Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Moretsky, questions?
So the building is largely vacant, is that true? Yeah.
Yeah.
And why is that? They don't want to rent it out, or why is it?
I think legally, I don't think they can rent it out right now. And I think this is partly due to the information that Mr. Das Mohammed included in his brief relating to the court case between the city of Winnipeg and this company. So I believe until that's determined in the courts, I don't think there's going to be any renting of this location.
So the issue then isn't that it's unrentable, it's just that they can't rent it. Is that right?
Yeah, you could view it that way, definitely. I think when you have care and control, or you have a vested interest in a property, through that bundle of rights, you have the right to lease that property out. And that creates a split in the property, a fee simple interest in that property. I don't think they have that right at this point. So it's not like a typical property that you or I would own. And if we owned a commercial property, if there's no legal issues with it, we could just rent it out to whoever we wanted to. I don't think that's the situation here.
We're looking at this from the perspective of the market value, correct, on the income approach.
Sure.
So if Caspian was to say, well, we just want to liquidate here or move assets, and we're going to sell, the buyer, prospective buyer could look at it as renting out those areas, fully renting it out, correct?
Yeah. I think a prospective purchaser would probably look at this as an opportunity. However, that opportunity for any prospective buyer would not be there until those issues are dealt with. So just like there are some easements that affect value on any property, this would almost be viewed the same way, almost as an easement on the property that affects the value of it.
So another buyer would also have the same constraints then as,
No, I don't think that they would have those same constraints because I think these things have to work themselves out. And once the future ownership of it is determined, then at that point, they would, whoever owns it would be free to do whatever they want with it. So there appears to be a window where we can't do anything with the property in terms of leasing it out. That's how I understand it.
okay. No further questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Mr. Mel.
No, they've been asked and answered. Thank you.
Okay, just on this, given the location of well, both these two properties today, I mean, once the legal situation has been cleared up, isn't the most likely outcome going to be that it's been sold and converted into retail space or parking for retail space or something like that?
Yeah, well, just based on the location, I don't think I think those buildings would probably be knocked down, and you're right. They would probably be some person smarter than all of us would probably go in there and you know develop that property. So yes,
Yeah, probably a person wouldn't be looking and saying, "Hey, this is prime industrial property. I'm going to move my operations there in the middle
yeah.
of basically in the middle of a shopping center."
Well, I mean, oddly enough, I believe the assessor's picture from, I think it was page 17. I'm pretty sure that was taken from the Costco parking lot.
I think so
Uh,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, it's the
Oh,
value of the
hang on.
property.
I got a phone call I got to take care from my wife's personal care home. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello.
I will put us into a brief 5-minute recess.
Okay, so Mr. Navarro, we're finishing questions for you. I guess I have no more questions that weren't asked and answered. Is there any summation you wish, Mr. Das Mohammed?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Navarro?
No, I'm good as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Then we've now heard all the items on today's agenda, so this hearing is now adjourned. And once again, my apologies for the interruption.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you.